On Saturday, the 25th of June 2022, the Gambia Bankers Association celebrates their fifth awards night at the OIC Conference Hall. The occasion was graced by the Minister of Finance, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, President of the Bankers Association of the Gambia, and Mr. Chenandur C., representative for West African Bankers Association.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today is the fifth awards night for 20 years of existence of the Bankers Association of the Gambia. To do us the honors and get the place going, here is the Managing Director and CEO of Vista Bank, but also the President of the Bankers Association of the Gambia, Binta Jani.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I must first of all apologize for the delayed start. It's always a logistical challenge having to organize such events, and in particular, given traffic congestions in Gambia these days. And the fact that also we're expecting some dignitaries from the sub-region, some of whom have just arrived, joining us tonight. Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mr. Sidi Keta, the Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, the President, West African Bankers Association, Mr. Cherno Nurusi, former President, Chartered Institute of Bankers, Mr. Joseph Jayola, Sierra Leone Bankers Association representative, Mr. Charlotte Taylor Pierce, representative from WAMA, Mr. Alif Sise, Secretary General of WABA, Mr. Sega Balde, Mr. Mahmoud Malik Jain, Mr. Pa Makumbanjai, founding members of the Gambia Bankers Association, former presidents of the Gambia Bankers Association, my colleagues, managing directors, CEOs of commercial banks, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I must again reiterate and say a good, warm welcome to this fifth edition of the Gambia Association Bankers Night. It's an honor to welcome you here in my capacity as president of the association, and we would also like to take this opportunity again to welcome our sister institutions from the subsidiaries. We count on enhanced collaboration, sharing experiences and success stories going forward. After a 2-year pause due to the pandemic, we are delighted to host this event. Certainly, the COVID pandemic, it's not yet out of the woods, but alhamdulillah, that we're able to gather tonight and celebrate together as one. We look ahead with cautious optimism, underpinned by the global impact of the Ukrainian crisis, threatened inflationary pressures, and the possibility of another pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me also to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation of the immense contribution of past and present managing directors to the continued contributions they've always been doing to the Gambia Bankers Association. At this point, I would want us to observe a minute of silence to honor our late former president of the association, Mr. Nuha Marina, also a former managing director of MD Bloom Bank, Mr. Sonny Awa, deceased, and all those before them and after. May Allah grant them eternal peace. We're also indebted and thankful to the government of the Gambia, and in particular the Central Bank, for the conducive business environment and the immeasurable support and guidance. The Bankers Association started 20 years ago, at which time there were only 5 banks. Today, we have 12 banks in total in the country. It was necessary then at the time for managing directors, they thought, to be getting together over lunch to share experiences and success stories. By the time the number of banks got to 12 in the country. They decided then to set up the Bankers Association. Under the circumstances, the managing directors acknowledged and considered competition healthy, but there was also the need for cooperation. Thus, the setting up of a not-profit making body called the Bankers Association in February 2002. The diversity of member banks of the association gives us the strength and capabilities to further leverage on as growth catalyst. The banking sector has witnessed positive developments over the years. Improved customer experiences, digitalization to support financial inclusion, as well as increased access to credit, amongst others. To build on these and harness banks as vectors for implementing national plans and spur economic growth, we call for renewed engagement in addressing some significant challenges. I'll just highlight them. We require strengthened legal frameworks to expeditiously protect creditors and borrowers' rights, which are central to deepening financial markets. Further work with stakeholders is necessary in addressing ways of tackling rising trend in industry frauds. Promoting financial inclusion increasingly hinges on investments in technology and new processes. Banks continue to invest in technology and innovative delivery channel options, fintech partnerships, and expanded digital payments. Such innovations continue to be highly welcomed, but there still need to focus on heightened risk management frameworks, legal issues, cybersecurity, customer protection, etc. Another key challenge is the need to strengthen the platform for information sharing mechanisms, such as credit reference bureaus, which are prerequisites also for deepening the financial market. Banks are also confronted with lower interest rate, coupled with increasing compliance costs. We also require further collaboration with the regulator in the implementation of the recently introduced FCA foreign currency guidelines to ensure that the realities of our business environment are accounted for, whilst ensuring full compliance. In the same vein, alignment of forex parallel market operations is required in a manner that ensures full accountability in these markets based on best practices. Strengthen institutions to embed continuous learning and development to narrow the talent gap is required. In addressing the talent gap challenges, the association, in collaboration with the Chartered Institute of Bankers in Nigeria and the Central Bank of the Gambia, established the Institute of Bankers in January 2011 to help develop the human capital requirements of the Gambia's banking industry. To date, we're delighted to report that the Institute has registered over 2,000 members and more than 32 candidates have completed the chartered certificate. Our goal is to work with key stakeholders to scale up and attain the Institute to a chartered and autonomous status by mid-2023, inshallah. The Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, the Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Over the years, the economy of the Gambia has indeed registered significant growth, and the financial sector is a critical agent in the drive for investment and development of the economy in general, has witnessed positive changes, thanks to the liberal economic policies and conducive operating environment created by the government of the Gambia. The banking sector is poised for engaged, innovative participation in the economic development trajectory of the country, spearheaded by the government of the Gambia as envisaged in the National Development Plan. Private sector participation, particularly the financial industry, cannot be overestimated in terms of absolute and total financial inclusion, resource mobilization for real sector financing, including the SME subsector for employment creation and growth. Hence the theme for tonight's event, innovation, and deepening the Gambia's financial sector for growth and investment. Public-private sector partnership is a must for our national development, and the financial industry is a key stakeholder in this drive. There is the need to review our approaches to development, financial intermediation, and the legal and regulatory frameworks that underpin the operating environment. The diversity of member banks of the GBA gives us the strength and capabilities together. We are ready for this challenge and will continue the discussion. The banks, through the association, are looking forward to a more robust and constructive engagement and committed to participate in the national development aspiration of our country, the Gambia. The association is being repositioned and reformed to effectively carry out its mandate. Integral to these efforts and in commemoration of the GBA's 20th anniversary, we are pleased to announce the proposed launch of a project intended to construct a new, modern, eco-friendly head office to house the GBA Secretariat as well as the Chartered Institute of the banks. Our goal is to mobilize $20 million for this project. We are no doubt ambitious and will want the project to kickstart by Q4 2022, inshallah, and completed by Q4 2023. We therefore seek the support of the government with the recommendation of the CBG for an allocation of land with equal financial contribution of member banks towards this proposed project. Finally, without the tireless dedication and commitment of our key resources, our people, we will not be able to achieve the successes and growth registered so far in the banking industry. We are confident in the future and continue to count on our people to achieve our goals and objectives. We're impressed by the resilience of our bankers who remained open, serving our communities at the time of heightened safety concerns. With continued investments in them, we have no doubt in their capability to meet the evolving changes of the banking industry, as well as stakeholders' expectations and requirements. We celebrate and recognize each and everyone in the industry work chain, and we'll take this opportunity tonight in recognizing the outstanding talent and Employee of the Year for each bank. It is therefore now my very great pleasure and honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mr. Sidi Keita, on the theme, innovation and deepening of the Gambia's financial sector to promote investment and growth. As an association, we're ready to work together to deliver on this. We also look forward to the continued stakeholder dialogue in addressing the significant challenges we face as an industry. Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I will ask the Honorable Minister of Finance to hold on. Let us get a couple of speeches in, and then we will bring you forward, sir. For now, we're going to have a statement by the West African Bankers Association, and Mr. Cherno Nuru Si will do that.
Madame la Présidente de l'Association des banques de la Gambie,
Madam President of the Gambia Bankers Association,
Messieurs les Présidents,
distinguished Directors Generals,
Messieurs les Directeurs,
dear Directors,
honorables invités,
honorable guests,
je remercie très chaleureusement Madame la Présidente et les membres de l'Association des banques de la Gambie de m'avoir fait l'honneur de m'inviter à cette très sympathique cérémonie marquant le 20e anniversaire de leur association.
I would like to thank Madam President and the members of the Gambia Bankers Association for inviting me to this very nice ceremony marking 20th anniversary of the association.
Cette journée est célébrée depuis 5 ans avec un réel éclat. Je me permets de vous adresser mes plus vives félicitations pour cette belle initiative et pour la forte pertinence et la brûlante actualité du thème de cette année, innovation et approfondissement du secteur financier de la Gambie pour la croissance et l'investissement.
This day has been celebrated for the past 5 years with great enthusiasm. I would like to congratulate you on this wonderful initiative and on the relevance and appropriateness of this year's theme, Innovation and Deepening of the Gambia's Financial Sector for Growth and Investment.
En 20 ans, sous la direction éclairée de votre association et de ses membres, le système bancaire et financier gambien a parcouru un très bon chemin, le plaçant aujourd'hui au niveau des standards internationaux les plus élevés et lui permettant de jouer son rôle fondamental et irremplaçable dans l'économie nationale.
In 20 years, under the enlightened leadership of your association and its members, the Gambian banking and financial system has come a long way, rising to the highest international standards, placing itself in a position to play its fundamental and irreplaceable role in the national economy.
Après 2 années de frottement observé en 2017 et 2018, l'Association des banques de la Gambie s'est, depuis 2019, notablement réinvestie dans le fonctionnement de la BAO, sous l'impulsion de notre très regretté frère, Noha Marena, à qui nous rendons ici un très vibrant hommage. Que Dieu, dans son infinie bonté, daigne l'accueillir à son paradis céleste et répande sa grâce sur sa famille, ses collègues de l'association de banque de la Gambie et ses collaborateurs.
After 2 years of uncertainty observed in 2017 and 2018, the Gambia Bankers Association has since 2019 notably reinvested in the functioning of WABA under the impetus of our deeply regretted brother, Nuha Marena, to whom we pay here a very vibrant tribute. May God, in his infinite goodness, welcome him in his heaven and spread his grace on his family, his colleagues of the Gambian Bankers Association and his collaborators.
Nous remercions vivement la nouvelle présidente, Mme Binta Diané, son vice-président, M. Karl Assem, et son secrétaire général, M. Aladi Dieng, pour leur disponibilité et leur grande volonté de poursuivre et de renforcer son œuvre.
We thank the new president, Mrs. Binta Jale, her vice president, Mr. Karl Assem, and her secretary general, Mr. Aladi Dieng, for their availability and their great willingness to continue and spread this work.
Le Conseil exécutif de l'ABAO a adopté en juillet 2019 son plan de développement stratégique et organisationnel 2020-2024, comportant entre autres ses propositions de valeur ainsi que de nombreux et importants programmes et projets intégrateurs nécessitant la très forte implication de tous ses membres.
WABA Executive Council adopted in July 2019 its Strategic and Organizational Development Plan 2020-2024, which includes, among other things, its value propositions as well as numerous and important integrating programs and projects requiring a very strong involvement of all its members.
Des actions relatives à la mise en œuvre de plusieurs de ces propositions de valeur ont déjà été réalisées avec un réel succès, confirmant ainsi toute leur pertinence.
Actions related to the implementation of several of these value propositions have already been carried out, with real success, thus confirming their relevance.
Dans le cadre de l'exécution du plan de développement stratégique et organisationnel, le bureau exécutif de l'ABAO a engagé une vaste opération d'approfondissement et d'élargissement de ses partenaires avec de très grandes institutions internationales et africaines. Des protocoles d'accord seront très prochainement signés avec ces institutions qui impulseront notablement l'activité de l'ABAO, lui permettant ainsi de jouer pleinement son rôle et d'accomplir sa mission de membre du groupe secteur privé de la CEDEAO et d'organisations professionnelles sous-régionales.
As part of the execution of the Strategic and Organizational Development Plan, the Executive Board of WABA has initiated a vast operation to deepen and broaden its partnership with major international and African institutions. Memorandum of Understanding will soon be signed with these institutions, which will significantly boost the activity of WABA, thus enabling it to fully play its role and accomplish its mission as a member of the ECOWAS Private Sector Group and a sub-regional professional organization.
La réussite de toutes ces opérations nécessite la pleine implication de toutes les banques commerciales et institutions financières de la CEDEAO, qui en seront les principales opératrices.
The success of all these operations requires the full involvement of all ECOWAS commercial banks and financial institutions, which will be the main operators.
Je saisis cette occasion, Monsieur le ministre, pour vous informer que la place de la Gambie dans l'ABAWA est appelée très prochainement à se renforcer notablement.
I would like to take this opportunity, Minister, to inform you that the place of the Gambia in Waba will be strengthened very soon. Indeed, its current Vice President, who is also the President of Sierra Leone, Commercial Bank Associations.
Elle s'appelle Aïna Mor, elle est gambienne et elle est prétendue pour être la prochaine présidente de l'ABAO, très prochainement.
Her name is Mrs. Aina Moore. She is a citizen of Gambia. Normally, she will be elected president of our associations in 2023.
Parce que l'ABAO fonctionne sur le plan alternatif. 2 ans, c'est pour un francophone. Les 2 prochaines années, c'est pour un anglophone. Et Aina Mor va devenir, à partir de 2023, la présidente de l'ABAO.
WABO functions, WABO are elected within 2 years. In the next 2 years, Ms. Aina Moore will be elected to be president.
En plus de cela, le futur secrétaire général de l'ABAO est également un citoyen de la Gambie.
In addition, the future Secretary General of WABA is also a citizen of the Gambia.
C'est pourquoi, malgré mon calendrier professionnel et personnel très chargé, j'ai tenu à être présent à cette cérémonie afin de lancer, du haut de cette tribune, un appel solennel à toute la communauté bancaire et financière de la Gambie pour préparer le terrain et permettre ainsi la brillante réussite de ses concitoyens à la tête de l'ABAO en s'impliquant d'ores et déjà plus fortement dans son fonctionnement comme ce fut le cas dans le passé.
That is why, despite my busy professional and personal schedule, I wanted to be present at the ceremony to learn from this podium a solemn appeal to the entire banking and financial community of the Gambia to prepare the ground and thus allow the brilliant success of your fellow citizens at the head of the WABA by being more strongly involved in its operation as it was in the case in the past.
Les entretiens que j'ai eus et que je continue d'avoir avec les autorités politiques, économiques, monétaires, bancaires et financières de ce pays me permettent d'être très optimiste sur le bon aboutissement de mes démarches.
The meetings I have already had and will continue to have with political, economic, monetary, banking, and financial authorities of this country allow me to be very optimistic about the successful outcome of my efforts.
On this note of hope, I wish great success to this 5th annual Bankers' Day of the Republic of the Gambia and the 20th anniversary of the Gambia Bankers Association. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you.
Madame la Présidente de l'Association des banques de la Gambie,
Madam President of the Gambia Bankers Association,
Messieurs les Présidents,
distinguished Directors Generals,
Messieurs les Directeurs,
dear Directors,
honorables invités,
honorable guests,
je remercie très chaleureusement Madame la Présidente et les membres de l'Association des banques de la Gambie de m'avoir fait l'honneur de m'inviter à cette très sympathique cérémonie marquant le 20e anniversaire de leur association.
I would like to thank Madam President and the members of the Gambia Bankers Association for inviting me to this very nice ceremony marking 20th anniversary of the association.
Cette journée est célébrée depuis 5 ans avec un réel éclat. Je me permets de vous adresser mes plus vives félicitations pour cette belle initiative et pour la forte pertinence et la brûlante actualité du thème de cette année, innovation et approfondissement du secteur financier de la Gambie pour la croissance et l'investissement.
This day has been celebrated for the past 5 years with great enthusiasm. I would like to congratulate you on this wonderful initiative and on the relevance and appropriateness of this year's theme, innovation and deepening of the Gambia's financial sector for growth and investment.
En 20 ans, sous la direction éclairée de votre association et de ses membres, le système bancaire et financier gambien a parcouru un très bon chemin, le plaçant aujourd'hui au niveau des standards internationaux les plus élevés et lui permettant de jouer son rôle fondamental et irremplaçable dans l'économie nationale.
In 20 years, under the enlightened leadership of your association and its members, the Gambian banking and financial system has come a long way, rising to the highest international standards, placing itself in a position to play its fundamental and irreplaceable role in the national economy.
Après 2 années de frottement observé en 2017 et 2018, l'Association des banques de la Gambie s'est, depuis 2019, notablement réinvestie dans le fonctionnement de l'ABAO, sous l'impulsion de notre très regretté frère, Noha Marena, à qui nous rendons ici un très vibrant hommage. Que Dieu, dans son infinie bonté, daigne l'accueillir à son paradis céleste et répande sa grâce sur sa famille, ses collègues de l'association de banque de la Gambie et ses collaborateurs.
After 2 years of uncertainty observed in 2017 and 2018, the Gambia Bankers Association has since 2019 notably reinvested in the functioning of WABA under the impetus of our deeply regretted brother, Nuha Marena, to whom we pay here a very vibrant tribute. May God, in His infinite goodness, welcome him in His heaven and spread His grace on his family, his colleagues of the Gambian Bankers Association and his collaborators.
Nous remercions vivement la nouvelle présidente, Mme Binta Diané, son vice-président, M. Karl Assem, et son secrétaire général, M. Aladi Dieng, pour leur disponibilité et leur grande volonté de poursuivre et de renforcer son œuvre.
We thank the new president, Mrs. Binta Diané, her vice president, Mr. Karl Assem, and her secretary general, Mr. Aladi Dieng, for their availability and their great willingness to continue and further this work.
Le Conseil exécutif de l'ABAO a adopté en juillet 2019 son plan de développement stratégique et organisationnel 2020-2024, comportant entre autres ses propositions de valeur ainsi que de nombreux et importants programmes et projets intégrateurs nécessitant la très forte implication de tous ses membres.
WABA Executive Council adopted in July 2019 its Strategic and Organizational Development Plan 2020-2024, which includes, among other things, its value propositions as well as numerous and important integrating programs and projects requiring a very strong involvement of all its members.
Des actions relatives à la mise en œuvre de plusieurs de ces propositions de valeur ont déjà été réalisées avec un réel succès confirmant ainsi toute leur pertinence.
Actions related to the implementation of several of these value propositions have already been carried out, with real success, thus confirming their relevance.
Dans le cadre de l'exécution du plan de développement stratégique et organisationnel, le bureau exécutif de l'ABAO a engagé une vaste opération d'approfondissement et d'élargissement de ses partenaires avec de très grandes institutions internationales et africaines. Des protocoles d'accord seront très prochainement signés avec ces institutions qui impulseront notablement l'activité de l'ABAO, lui permettant ainsi de jouer pleinement son rôle et d'accomplir sa mission de membre du groupe secteur privé de la CEDEAO et d'organisation professionnelle sous-régionale.
As part of the execution of the Strategic and Organizational Development Plan, the Executive Board of WABA has initiated a vast operation to deepen and broaden its partnership with major international and African institutions. Memorandum of Understanding will soon be signed with these institutions, which will significantly boost the activity of WABA, thus enabling it to fully play its role and accomplish its mission as a member of the ECOWAS Private Sector Group and a sub-regional professional organization.
La réussite de toutes ces opérations nécessite la pleine implication de toutes les banques commerciales et institutions financières de la CEDEAO, qui en seront les principales opératrices.
The success of all these operations requires the full involvement of all ECOWAS commercial banks and financial institutions, which will be the main operators.
Je saisis cette occasion, Monsieur le ministre, pour vous informer que la place de la Gambie dans l'ABAO est appelée très prochainement à se renforcer notablement.
I would like to take this opportunity, Minister, to inform you that the place of the Gambia in WABA will be strengthened very soon. Indeed, its current Vice President, who is also the President of Sierra Leone, Commercial Bank Associations.
Elle s'appelle Aina Mor, elle est gambienne et elle est prétendue pour être la prochaine présidente de l'ABAO, très prochainement.
Her name is Mrs. Aina Moore. She is a citizen of Gambia. Normally, she will be elected president of our associations in 2023.
Parce que l'ABAO fonctionne sur le plan alternatif. 2 ans, c'est pour un francophone. Les 2 prochaines années, c'est pour un anglophone. Et Aina Mor va devenir, à partir de 2023, la présidente de l'ABAO.
WABA functions, WABA are elected within 2 years. In the next 2 years, Ms. Aina Moore will be elected to be president.
En plus de cela, le futur secrétaire général de l'ABAO est également un citoyen de la Gambie.
In addition, the future Secretary General of WABA is also a citizen of the Gambia.
C'est pourquoi, malgré mon calendrier professionnel et personnel très chargé, j'ai tenu à être présent à cette cérémonie afin de lancer du haut de cette tribune un appel solennel à toute la communauté bancaire et financière de la Gambie pour préparer le terrain et permettre ainsi la brillante réussite de ses concitoyens à la tête de l'ABAO en s'impliquant d'ores et déjà plus fortement dans son fonctionnement comme ce fut le cas dans le passé.
That is why, despite my busy professional and personal schedule, I wanted to be present at the ceremony to launch from this podium a solemn appeal to the entire banking and financial community of the Gambia to prepare the ground and thus allow the brilliant success of your fellow citizens at the head of the WABA by being more strongly involved in its operation as it was in the case in the past.
Les entretiens que j'ai eus et que je continue d'avoir avec les autorités politiques, économiques, monétaires, bancaires et financières de ce pays me permettent d'être très optimiste sur le bon aboutissement de mes démarches.
The meetings I have already had and will continue to have with political, economic, monetary, banking, and financial authorities of this country allow me to be very optimistic about the successful outcome of my efforts.
On this note of hope, I wish great success to this 5th annual Bankers' Day of the Republic of the Gambia and the 20th anniversary of the Gambia Bankers Association. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. And you will have to excuse me. Some of these names, and I hate it when people don't get my name right. So, he said, Layo Adeola. That's what he said.
Agreement was signed. I was then the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. And so it's with delight that I'm here to see what is it that the association has done. Mine is just a brief remark because I noticed that the minister is going to be speaking on innovation and deepening and all the what have you. And part of the things that will allow us deepen and do all the required innovation is talent. And we find out that talent is very scarce. I mean, I was looking through the social media not long ago when Canada said, look, we're looking at getting a lot of talents from Africa. And it means, therefore, that if we do not spend time to develop and deepen the talents of our people, we may end up not having the required people to do the work that you want us to do. Which is why I want to commend and urge every one of us as much as possible to do the exams of the Chartered Institute of Bankers. And one of the things that we've done in Nigeria is the fact that because we know that we are reaching out to the microfinance bank and looking at the economy of Gambia, I noticed that there's a lot that you have in the microfinance banks. So what we did at the Institute was to start exams for the microfinance bankers. So apart from the associateship exam for those who work in commercial and merchant banking, we do exams for the microfinance bank. And the reason we do that is that we don't want to put people forward there who are not good, who are not competent, who cannot do what is it they're doing. And so because we have the central bank here and we have the minister here, I want to commend to you one thing that we did again in Nigeria. Is to ensure that the central bank have what is called a competency framework. So never are you going to work in the banking industry if you don't have some key competencies. And this came when we had some run around the banks all over the world. And then I was looking at what is it we needed to do. So learning from both UK, everywhere, we realized that there were many people in the banking industry that were not competent enough to do the work they are supposed to be doing. So what both the central bank and the Chartered Institute of Bankers has done is to establish a framework. So I want to urge you as much as possible that you should take it on so that it can deepen the competencies and the strength of your people. And I was having a chat with the the central bank governor there, and I said, I observed that you have many microfinance people, and if you look at credit to the private sector, it's just about 5%. compared to what happened across Africa. And I'll be glad if, with the work of the finance minister and the central bank, you begin to do dedicated funding towards the MSME. That will help us to deepen the economy. Time is fast spent. I want to congratulate the Gambian Bankers Association for this 20th anniversary, and congratulate the Institute for the examinations they've done to date. And I want to say, look, Nigeria will remain open and available to share with you our experiences. As a matter of fact, when I looked around the world, we realized that we don't have a coordinated institute across the world. And so Nigeria led that, and today we have a global institute across the world that is looking at building competencies. So the president has asked me to tell you that yes, we did this work 11 years ago. We are available to support and will continue to support. And thank you very much. I don't want to stand between you and the lecturer, and I will love you.
The Chief Banker of the Gambia, Mr. Boa Sedi, Governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, is the next speaker.
We expect bankers to relax, forget about non-performing loans, and forget about currency shortages. So I'm asking you to relax. I am the second Deputy Governor, Central Bank of the Gambia, and I bring you felicitations from the Honorable Governor Boa Sedi, who is unavoidably absent, and he has asked me to convey his remarks. Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, distinguished members of the High Table, permit me to stand on existing protocol. And his address, the Honorable Governor's address goes as follows. He says, it gives me great pleasure to deliver these remarks on this, the 5th annual Bankers' Day celebration. A day like today offers the opportunity for networking and increased interaction between us, all of us, as development partners. While I do not intend to take much of your time, please permit me to note some of the contemporary challenges of our time which impact on our industry. The tensions and complexities in the international scene have aggravated the already difficult situation created by the COVID-19 pandemic. Such challenges transmit to the financial system through numerous channels, including declining trade, inflationary pressures, unstable exchange rates, etc. The Gambia has not been immune to these challenges as they present policymakers with the difficult balancing act of supporting growth as well as fighting inflation. The anticipated strong recovery from the pandemic this year is threatened by the Russian-Ukraine war, which had added complexities to the already delicate situation. Accordingly, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of the Gambia adopted the tightening policy approach by increasing the monetary policy rate by 100 basis points to 11%, with the intent of anchoring the long-term inflation expectations and guiding inflation back towards the medium-term target of single digits. With prudent policy coordination between the fiscal authorities and the central bank, our goal of keeping inflation under control while attaining growth shall remain achievable. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, the GDP growth of 0.6% was registered, and in 2021, it was estimated to have grown by 4.3%. The financial sector remains stable and resilient, with robust liquidity and capital adequacy ratios. However, supply shocks persist, and uncertain global economic environment has dampened consumer and business confidence in the domestic economy. On the other hand, we have the will and the commitment to resolving these challenges that lie ahead of us. With the private sector participation and effective domestic resource mobilization, sustainable and inclusive growth is not beyond the reach of this country. As part of the inclusive finance and financial deepening stance of the Central Bank of the Gambia, in collaboration with the development partners, there was a launching of the financial inclusion strategy, which is aimed at onboarding the unbanked part of the community. The CBG also adopted the digitalization agenda to promote, among others, interoperability of all payment platforms, including mobile phone companies, and the promotion of fintech startups. Digitalization also improved efficiency in terms of speed and cost of transactions, hence promotes financial inclusion. The digital revolution is therefore changing the payments landscape as big technology and fintech firms move into financial services. Consequently, payments are no longer a commercial bank monopoly. Accordingly, according to the BIS 2020, data in 2017 showed that almost a third of adults in the world had no bank account. This number exceeded 50% in Africa and close to 40% in Latin American countries. Clearly, something is going wrong somewhere. Financial exclusion can stem from financial market features and broader structural factors. Such market factors include lack of access to points of access points, insufficient ICC infrastructure, high costs, and the private sector's unwillingness to serve some segments of society. The author, Demigo Kunz, 2020, observed that broader structural factors include financial or digital illiteracy, lack of funds, and limited trust to service providers. While digitalization may not eliminate all the structural barriers to inclusion, it can mitigate some of the market imperfections inhibiting inclusion. Already, several central banks in the world are considering the prospects of establishment of central bank digital currencies, which present fiat currency in digital form, with sovereign central banking backing. However, digitalization alone is not the silver bullet that is capable of eliminating all our challenges. It requires the cooperation of all of us, all stakeholders for that matter, particularly in the establishment of key institutions such as the proposed capital market that the central bank is looking at establishing, interoperability of all payment systems, including linking of payment platforms of mobile phones, banking accounts to all the central GAM switch that is already in operation. I would therefore like to conclude by extending my sincere thanks and appreciation to all those present here, particularly High Table, for taking time out of your busy schedule to grace this occasion. Special thanks and appreciation are reserved for the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs for allocating time out of his busy schedule to be here with us today. I wish to also register in a special way profound gratitude to the regulated institutions, the managing directors here present and their staff for their continued cooperation, without which the achievement of financial stability will be difficult. I thank you all for your kind attention.
It's important that we thank the bosses. It's sometimes they call it eye service, but it's really, really good that even the bosses have bosses. So the next speaker has worked in many financial institutions and had extensive international experience and expertise, talking about deepening the strength. I think this is why I'm very grateful to introduce the next speaker, for coming home and contributing towards the economy and to the building of the Gambia. So, Honorable Minister, let me also do my service that the Governor of the Central Bank did, because I don't know when my next step is coming from the government that you will sign. So I will sign my eyes very well for you, so you'll see me very well when it comes to that. So the Honorable Speaker will give us the keynote address on innovation and deepening the Gambia's financial sector for growth and investment. The Honorable C.D. Keita, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs of the Gambia.
Without giving an overview of the economic system as it obtains now. We are pleased to really thank the economic operators and the leadership of the country for having been able to steer the affairs in the very difficult times, which has enabled the Gambia to literally weather the storm with growth. Growth has increased to 4.3%, supported by strong economic fundamentals. And sectors driving this growth has been the public sector infrastructure projects, strong agricultural output, and the ongoing agricultural structural reforms. The government NDP has set up these priorities, and we are able to withstand the shocks because government has taken anti-cyclical approach to invest in infrastructure using domestic resources and mobilizing them locally to be able to invest in infrastructure expansion. That has really helped, and also to reach out to the vulnerable during the pandemic crisis. Notwithstanding that, we are still beset with some challenges that has been brought on by the Ukraine crisis. And as a result of that, we do not expect to repeat the growth numbers as just mentioned, but we believe will be above board and the economy's resilience will be sustained. Low to moderate interest rate environment has promoted the private sector credit. And in this regard, yes, private sector credit has increased, but we in the government want to see more of that happen. We want to see the banks not piling up their net income at the end of the year, but we really want to ensure and work with them to make sure that the man in the street feel the impact of the resource mobilization of the banks. The banking industry is highly capitalized and liquid, and we're pleased that during the crisis we have no bank run, and the 12 banks that we have in the economy now are all strongly liquid, and they benefit from good prudential oversight offered by the central bank. And with that, we are sure the competitive environment is accommodative, and we encourage that for the citizens to benefit the full impact of the liberal market policies of the government to drive the impact of all these policies to the citizens. The banks play a very key role in directing resources to investment, and therefore in a large way responsible for fostering economic growth. If you look at the bank, the role of a bank is mainly one of trust. People who have excess capital will deposit with the bank, and that excess capital should be directed by the prudential management of those resources and channeled towards productive sectors of the economy so that the economy can grow. So the Bankers Association and the banks here present have a very daunting task, as their contribution to economic growth is very vital. And on this, I will comment on the role of the banks, which for the Gambia represent the financial sector. The banks, the government, and the society are the three pillars of any economic system. The government role is to create the enabling environment, come up with prudential policies, accommodative oversight of banks, whilst the banks, being the custodian of resources, are here to support the government policies so that both of them work for the society at large. This is what we call the three pillars of the economy. And if one of them is broken, we have an unstable system. So today we are witnessing the bankers' dinner. We want to know that they stand as one of the strong pillars of the economy and the third pillar. Government has done its part, the recipient are the society. So we expect the banks to understand their vital role in working and riding on the efficient macroeconomic policies that the government is putting in place, leveraging on that for society to benefit. At the end of the day, both the government, the banks, are only working for the citizens, and that is core and central to the government's agenda. The economic environment is supported by a very liberal and free democratic political environment. We have just come out of a very resounding election where 90% of the population have participated, and the majority have overwhelmingly voted for His Excellency President Adama Barrow. So the political landscape is very square and transparent. With that, the economic operators are the banks. So we leverage on them, and I take this opportunity to call on the banks to step up their game to make sure the economy works for everybody. If you look at the size of funds that are under the custody of the banks, these represent the largest pot available. So by not fulfilling their role, all these government economic policies will amount to nothing, because finance is the engine that keeps the economy moving. So our role in government is mainly to ensure that the right economic framework exists, as we have a liberal market economy principle that encourages private sector participation. And the private sector definitely go to the banks. Those banks should open their door and not be afraid for the NPL. And at this time, more than any, their need is so important. You cannot save your way through a crisis. You spend your way through crisis. And I call on the banks to open their pores and support vital economic interventions, both at the public sector and the private sector, for the economy to thrive. On our part in government, we'll stand by you shoulder to shoulder to make sure that you have the enabling environment to thrive as banks. But that is at a price, and that price is for you to work and deliver for the community. It is not unbecoming for bankers' dinner to boast how much they have made at the end of the day. Net profit, how much bonuses have been paid out. But we all belong to a society. And if that society is left out, all those net profit and all those credits don't amount to anything. I'm sure bankers know this very well. Nobody eats credit. You only benefit when the credit system delivers the goods. So we expect the banks to step up to their game, use innovative approaches, use the credit system to develop the economy. The government of the Gambia is focusing on implementing policies to ensure a deep and inclusive financial market. We have recently actively participated in the launching of a credit reference bureau with a view to be able to support the credit decision of the banks. And I'm sure that will go a long way towards helping the credit officers be able to do their appraisal of clients. And so doing, with a credit reference bureau, once it comes to play, we expect the benefit to flow to the people in terms of the due diligence cost being reduced. That's what we call innovation. We have recently developed the capital market bill, which is with a view to develop the bond market and ultimately the stock market of the country. We are not yet there at the stock market, but the debt market is very important. It is the debt market that connects the savers to the investors and the risk takers. And unless the banks participate in actually rolling out this legal framework, the government cannot do it. For us as a government, we have done our part by coming up with the legislative framework. Now the icing is on the cake of the bankers to participate and implement this so that we can have a very deep and liquid debt market. A very active debt market is going to be a clear testimony of the innovation we are talking about. It is in the debt market that financial disintermediation can take place, where strong corporates, strong individuals, strong NGOs can tap the debt market without going through to the banks. But the banks are not going to lose out because they serve as advisors, they serve as transaction custodians, and they get their cut on the fees. We want to see banks focusing on that. The disintermediation that the debt market will introduce should work for everybody. And this should lead to ultimately the development of an investment bank. It is when investment bank comes, access to long-term capital becomes available. Currently, we know banks are limited by their open positions. One, their asset liability mismatch. Well, we expect you to come up with innovative ideas to address that in order for you to give long-term access to credit. The current tenor of credit in the industry is very short end of the curve. We want to see banks leveraging their balance sheet and be able to offer long-term credit for the effective investment in vital sectors of agriculture, transport, and infrastructure. Because short-term credit, it just gives you a temporary high, but it does not support long-term growth. So it's only when the economic system is supported by a banking system that is adequately innovative enough to be able to offer long-term credit can we see effective economic development. On the other hand, we are not only focusing on the big players in the market to tap into the bond market or the debt market. The government has also noticed a large segment of our population doesn't have access to bank, does not have access to credit. In that regard, a financial inclusion strategy was developed that will give access to micro and small, medium-sized enterprises and microfinance institutions. And when it comes to microfinance institutions, we want the banks to leverage on the joint effect of their innovative capabilities and technology to be able to leverage on fintech, particularly, and introduce point-of-sale system so that people's financial transactions are not limited by the hours when banks are open. We want everybody to be able to have a 24-hour access to financial service, which fintech can introduce. And the way that will do is it will empower people and it will reduce people's need to carry a lot of cash. In that regard, we are also calling on the banks to focus on e-commerce. Our economic system is very cash-based, and that's quite expensive. E-commerce is the only way Gambia can leverage on the internet boom that is lifting every country out of poverty. The issue of carrying wide notes of large cash, transaction of cash, is not the way to carry an economy. It is only when banks, corporates, businesses, individuals can deal with the rest of the world with the switch of a mouse or on an app from an iPhone, having the capability to buy the latest product from any corner of the world, that will see innovation. And that can only happen when the banks are ready and implement the e-commerce platform. I call on the central bank, I call on the various banks here in present to focus and rapidly roll out an e-banking system that will enable every citizen in this country who have access to it to be able to participate in the e-commerce. E-commerce is the way forward, is the way every economy is leveraging for growth and expansion. And without that, no amount of innovation will do justice, because no nation is an island. And unless your financial system is connected with the global world, you are left out. Gambia is small, but size doesn't matter in technology. We can use Gambia as a hub. Will result in less court issues as such. I will also focus on the need for the banks not to leave the small and medium-sized enterprises in their innovation outreach. The small and the medium-sized enterprises are the engine of the economy, and these will help support as middle class. And the way forward for any economic development is the development of a middle class. It's not the very rich, it's not the very poor that take a country forward. It is that middle class that is a vital linchpin for any economic system to advance. So in their innovation that we are imploring on them, we urge them to focus on the small and medium-sized enterprises, which form easily more than 60% of the economic system. With that, we expect access to finance challenges will be minimized, and the role of a bank, that's why bankers are paid most. They are presumably one of the smartest in the room at all times. So with those brains, we expect them to get to work and make the economy work for everybody. We in government will stand by you, support you, but the rest of the work is cut out for you. And with that, I thank you all, and I hope this will not be a talk shop. The bank will rise to the challenge, innovate, and make our financial system work for everybody in the country. Thank you.
After the speeches given by the guest speakers, the occasion was followed by a gala dinner with entertainment before awards were given to the staff of the year for each bank.
Are you all good? Listen. So,
or 50 or 100 or 200. Let's go. And the next act, Kebatelo and friends will be backing the next band. Remember, this is an award night. Each band has chosen a start of the year for 2021 and they'll be awarded here tonight. The founding members and special awards and certificates will also be issued tonight. The next act will play 2 songs and then we will do Rana Bisa with the Bright Stars and then we go right into the awards. Let's get it, Kebatelo and friends. Come on, let's get it.
Can you join me? Let's sing along. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Best good Lucy, morning. Best good Lucy, morning. Best good Lucy, morning. Best good Lucy, morning. May you live to witness many more to come. May you live to witness many more. I pray for you. We celebrate you today and every other day. Clap for Melanie. Happy birthday. Yes. Thanks so much. My name is Barham Chan. And I'm having the maestros. They are one of the best, the greatest. So let me hit you up with some cool crowd. You understand? Are you ready? Sanjaba, Mandali, yes, the beat, you not Mandali. Thanks so much. How was that one? It was good, right? Anyway, this is just an introduction, trust me. This is just an introduction. I got my guys in the building, bright stars. So they also come in with some black hamster cake. Say, the man is there. Ah, yeah, Namelena, Sabalinanda. Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Kami yan di daw ng nanti puro benyo na. Marami sa label di naga mo na resolve na.
There is nothing sweeter and much more pleasure than having all the bankers here. So put your hands together for yourself. Here before last we had it at QC with a play band. Tonight with a live band. Next year nobody knows, it can be on the clouds. We will have the angels also giving us something. So put your hands together as we entertain you to the fullest. Yes. Alright, let's go. Let's go. Are you happy? Are you ready for the kucha? I guess basically we all know what kucha is, isn't it? We all know what Ranhabisab is. We all know what Sorel is. So we are here to smooth in all the relationships. This means a potential deal. This means networking. So greetings to each and everybody, to all the managing directors.
Yes, who are here.
Did they know that we will come there?
If we knock at your banks, please open.
Do something.
We are here to entertain you, and you should be here to support us.
If you don't do something, we are banking with your banks.
Yes.
No, did they just realize?
Wait. Huh? The bank that we are banking with.
You know yourself.
You know, I'm looking at someone.
You know yourself.
The bank that we are banking with.
Oh,
see, here. Okay, the organization consists of different banks.
Yes.
One of them is the bank we are banking with.
Yes.
Asu, basically we have all the types of languages here.
Yes.
Everybody. From Tahar Farmarwan, Fimura, we have Oga, I'm seeing you here, you get it now. To all of you, put your hands together, please. Are you ready for good job?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Whoa.
Abdus. Lord.
Yeah.
first, which I am expecting. Thank you. The next bank is Arab Government Islamic Bank, Ajib, and staff of the year 2021 is Chale Salah.
The bank, Basic Bank, staff of the year 2021, F. Joe, Fatu Joe. '21 for Bloom Bank, Mr. Philip Sanyang.
Philip Sanyang, experienced banker with over 10 years of experience in banking industry. Excellent reputation for resolving problems.
Year 2021 for Eco Bank, Alajabai Sise. Congratulations, Alajabai.
Staff of the year 2021, FBN Bank. To the disappointment of the guys is a lady. Lady to Seka. Joining the institution on the 8th of January 2014. Position joining the institution as a relationship manager. Currently, sector head, commercial banking. Duration served in the institution, 8 years. Departments served in the institution is from start to date. Education qualification, 3 years.
Staff of the year 2021, Mega Bank. Guys, you are on. Abubakar Jatta.
And currently pursuing an ACCA program, he was moved to Financial Control Department as Financial Controller at the level of Senior Banking Officer. Abubakar served the bank for about
The representative of the Central Bank of the Gambia, could you do us the honor, sir? Staff of the year for Trust Bank Gambia Limited 2021. Guys, I'm sorry. Fatu Lily Drame. The next bank used to be called FI Bank and branded recently to Vista Bank Gambia Limited. Guys, I'm sorry. Staff of the year 2021, Sohna B.S. Sen. Sohna B.S. Sen.
Thank you.
Limited Staff of the Year 2021. I'm sorry, guys. Mam Fatu Jallo. Congratulations.
Mom Fatu has over 8 years time.
Congratulations, Mam Fatu. Cash any time of the day, 24 hours. The ATM team of Standard Chartered Bank are recognized as Staff of the Year 2021. The ATM team congratulations. Thank you, sir. We're calling on a family member of the late Nuha Marena. Nuha Marena.
Jordan, Ghana, Angola, in various roles at very senior managerial level.
The next category of awards will be given by the president of the Bankers Association and a good friend of mine, a friend of banking, a guy who loves money, understands money, deals with money, and a former vice president of the Gambia Bankers Association, GBA, Bankers Association. Doing is you. Don't look at somebody else. You know it's you. Doing.
And the next winner, as the former vice president of the Gambia Bankers Association, I will not say the name because he will not appreciate it. Mr. K.O. K.O. is there? Director of SCB Gambia and SCB Sierra, Vice President of the Gambia Bankers Association and Trustee of the Institute of Bankers.
A great person, and has in his entire life almost dedicated it to the institution of banking. Mr. Ibrahima Sallah.
He was subsequently made head of the department in January 2004. In January 2007, he was promoted.
A doyen of banking, a man who understands banking, who has worked in the same building for 3 different banks. Mr. Pa Makumba Njai. Panjai.
The position of national manager. He became the operations manager when
Thank you, West Africa. You
Thanks.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Committee of GFAN at the most active subcommittee.
And you're leading the most active subcommittee, I'm told, for governor or commissioner those days. He served as MD and he initiated a whole banking sector in the Gambia. And he is one of the pillars and founding members of the Gambia Bankers Association, Mr. Mahmoud Malik Jai.
served as permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, served as
all protocols observed. I'm very highly delighted that although we are having our 5th annual dinner and awards night, each year as bankers, we have moved a step higher and higher. And tonight has been a successful dinner meeting that we have had, fully attended. When we were here at 7:30, the president and I were worried. But when we saw the ladies coming in at 10 o'clock, we know that they mean business. We really thank you, all of you, for coming. We have gotten more ideas to be able to do it better next year. But as we listen to all the guidance and the speeches, it is important as bankers for us to be relevant into the society in which we operate. And that is something that we should take up and see how best we can innovate and deepen the economy that in which we operate. If the economy is successful, then we can also be successful. If the economy is not successful, then we cannot be successful. But for our economy to be successful, as rightly said by the Honorable Minister, it depends on the middle class. How do we let the medium enterprises and the small businesses to operate? And it is in our duty as bankers to be relevant to this economy in which we operate. I know that we will take up this challenge and make sure that next year, when we invite the Honorable Minister again, you really see the progress with which we have participated in making this economic very healthy and sound. Thank you very much for coming.
Madam President of the Gambia Bankers Association, Managing Directors of all commercial banks, Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Governor of the Central Bank, ably represented by Second Deputy Governor of Paul Nelly, our international community's chairperson, Chief Protocol, our regular clients who are here celebrating with us, the media fraternity, and my organizing committee team members of this very important event. I want to also continue to say good evening instead of good morning to you all. After having all your bosses deliver powerful remarks and remarkable speeches in an event like this one, you are left with no choice but to only say two words, which is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. For that notwithstanding, with their indulgence and permission, I am going to seize this opportunity to recognize and show appreciation to some people here, if not all of us, for a job well done, as my task today specifically is to deliver the word of thanks. Peace, safety, and security is a fundamental pillar in which every business and non-businesses or individuals heavily rely on for success in whatever you do. It is against this background that I want to recognize and thank the government of the Gambia through the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs for providing an enabling environment for the operation of this business we are in and be able to perform in their respective duties as they have been assigned. Honorable Minister, thank you very much and thanks for coming as well. As the name implies, bankers and coming together to form an association known as Gambia Bankers Association, the referee in this field, who is no other than the Central Bank of the Gambia, has a pivotal role to play. This now leads me to honorably thank the CBD for the guidance and monitoring the operations of all financial institutions in this country while leveling the playing ground for everyone to exercise their muscles. So thank you very much, Honorable Governor, and on behalf of your institution for a job well done, and we continue to pray for God to give you strength and might to steer the financial affairs of this, our country, the Gambia. To our able and dynamic managing directors and CEOs of all commercial banks in the Gambia, on behalf of the organizing committee of the 5th Annual Bankers Award Night, and on my own behalf, we wish to show our appreciation to you for identifying us to put our things together as a committee and come up with a night like this one. It has not been very easy, but it is always said that unity is strength. And for that reason, we have been able to move the mountain to another location, whereby giving us a clear room and space to organize this event. So thank you very much for your trust bestowed on us, and by this grace, we will deliver a successful report to you from here. To our partners, all that we realize and achieve here today would not have been possible without your involvement. Therefore, with or without mentioning anyone's name, we appreciate your patronage and pray for all your well-being in your respective companies. We are proud of you as you have shown pure solidarity with the Gambia Bankers Association. Thank you all for answering to our calls. It is a hard fact to say, but even planners do a great job as it is too challenging to put things together and come up with a successful event. On that note, we want to recognize and secure our officer, our main partner and sponsor of this event, for providing us with more than half of the logistics. Officer, we say Bano, and in the local dialect we say Chuko, Chukanam, Reform. Thanks to the media for the job well done. We recognize your effort in promoting our business by raising our flags across the Gambia border. Thank you all for coming. All work, no play, is one of the biggest challenges. And if you are able to get it all right, then you deserve a round of applause. Therefore, join me and give a round of applause for Mr. Aaron Grande for getting it all right in handling this night as the Master of Ceremony. Mr. Grande, we appreciate you and all that you did for the association through this organizing committee. We thank you for accommodating us when we leave your side at the very last minute. We always know how uneasy it is to accommodate someone at this time. Even where some people, they will say, if we notice, but with or without notice, we still move on with us. Keep up with that spirit as this country belongs to all of us. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you. Let's all unite until we meet again next year to celebrate another Bankers Association night. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.